Hello there, Senior Susie here, ready to tell you some true life, scary stories. Are you ready? My grandma was born in the 1880s. She told me when I was a little girl that she knew a ghost story from when she was younger, when she lived in Michigan. She said that someone, a friend of the family, had died. And after she died, her rocking chair would rock in the middle of the night, and you could hear it creaking in the middle of the night. And her family would go to the parlor where the rocking chair was, and it would be rocking. And when they went to the parlor, they could hear the voice of the deceased whimpering, crying, sobbing. This happened night after night after night. It was very disturbing, scary, and the family who loved her tried to figure out why was she crying and why was it that she wouldn't leave the rocking chair. And they figured out that there was something wrong with the finances, something with their property they owned, and something not right with her will. And they got an attorney and they got everything straightened out. And when it was all straightened out, peace and silence, no more rocking every night, no more creaky floor and whimpering, crying, sobbing. It all ended when things were taken care of. Like that lady needed that peace before she could go in her spirit wherever she was going to go. So that was the first ghost story that I remember hearing. And I believed it was true because my grandma told me. It always stuck in my brain until today. And another one was my grandma told me that after she was married that she and my grandpa and another couples or two, I don't know how many people, went for a seance. They were trying to contact someone who was dead. And I don't know if there was some kind of medium person there, probably. I don't remember that part. But she told me that they all put their hands up on the table, touching, and they were trying to contact this spirit. Well, the lights were out and all, and she said that all of a sudden, the table, everyone's hands are up on the table, palms down, touching. The table went right up and hit the ceiling, and everyone was hanging by their hands. Their hands were like glued, stuck onto the table, feet dangling in the air, while that table bang, bang, bang hit the ceiling several times. That was the first seance story that I heard, stuck in my mind all these years. Okay, now I'm going to go to my own stories, true stories. Okay, my first encounter was when I was about 12, 11 years old. My girlfriend bought a Ouija board. Okay, the Ouija board, if you don't know, it looks like a game board. You buy it in any store where they have toys. And it has letters and numbers. It says yes and no. I think it might say something else in the corners. I don't, that's all I remember. And there was this plastic thing like about this big, and two people could put their fingertips on it. And that's what we did with my friends. We would have a group of friends, maybe six of us at a time, five or so, and we would get around that Ouija board and different ones would try, and we would put our little fingers on that top of that thing and we would ask it a question. Now, the idea was that some spirit would answer our questions. So it never worked with all these different people that tried it, kids, right? But there was one boy, his name was John, and he was my friend. And when we did it, it worked. I don't know why. I guess John and I had some kind of special chemistry connection, but I think it really and truly, I think it worked because we really believed. We believed it was going to work. So we put our fingers on there very lightly and we asked him it just silly questions like we would ask it somebody's phone number or somebody's birthday. Never, the thing never moved for anybody, but when John and I did it, that thing just started zooming around the board and we had our fingers just barely touching the top and it started zooming all around. So we asked it several questions. I remember we asked it like somebody's address, phone number, and then we got out the phone book way back then. This was in the 60s, early 60s. And yes, everybody used phone books. Anyway, we verified it actually gave us like the phone number, the address of somebody that we asked about, birth dates, crazy stuff, nothing important. We asked it yes and no questions. Then we lived near the racetrack, so we asked it, give us the numbers for the Daily Double. Well, those numbers actually came in. Of course, we didn't bet, we were just kids, and they came in. We told our parents, and the next day, my parents, my next door neighbors were asking us, who's winning today? They wanted those numbers. But the serious, scary thing is, it worked. It really worked for me and John. And I believe it's because we had the right chemistry. I think it was really because we both were serious about it. We both believed and really wanted it to work. I think everybody else just thought it was a dumb game. So that's when I started really believing that there are spirits. There are spirits out there that can communicate. You can reach out to them. So the next thing that happened to me personally and John, okay, um, maybe like a year later, John had a cousin who died in a car accident. He was just a teenager, died in a car accident. Very sad. Um, it had just happened like days before, maybe a day before. I mean, and John was all very upset about it, and he wanted to contact him. So in my kitchen, John and I, and there was two other people. I'm pretty sure my boyfriend Ricky, I know he was there, and another person. There might have been more than two, might have been five of us. Um, I'm pretty sure Danny Smith was with us, and I think there was another person, maybe Barbara or Sherry or somebody, I don't know. But we said we would try to contact John's cousin. It was nighttime. We were in the kitchen, turned out the light. We all put our hands on the kitchen table, touching, right in the middle of the table. And this is in the 60s. This is a table that we had all my life. So back then they made the tables sturdy. It was a heavy kitchen table made of real wood. Okay. And anyway, we turned the lights out and silently we all just said, okay, we're just going to concentrate on John's cousin and ask him to speak to us. And I guess we said a few words. I don't remember that part, but I'm sure we probably said a few words. I think John probably said a few words. And we're silent for a couple minutes, really concentrating. And this was very real to us because it was a real death of somebody close to our good friend. We had not, we were all like 12, 13 years old, 11, 12, 13. Um, we had not experienced death before. So it was a very serious time for us. This was not a joke. We weren't playing around. We were very serious and concentrating on John's dead, recently deceased cousin, teenager. All of a sudden, that table started shaking. I mean, really shaking. Shaking where it was like, the legs were jumping up and down off the floor. We just freaked out, screamed, jumped up, turned on the light. Everybody jumped up. The boys were like, "Who did that? Who did that?" It was something really happened. Well, then we said, okay, nobody would admit that they did it. We all sat back down and somebody said, this table is too heavy. There's no way any one of us could have done that, with our hands on top of the table, right? We said to each other, did anybody's hands get let go? Did anybody feel hands let go? Nope, we all swore that we were touching hands on top of the table the whole time. Well, we sat down again in the same spot. The light's on now, of course, and we tried to move the table with our knees. We tried to kick it with our feet. We tried to move it with our knees. We could not budge that table. So something definitely happened. I was convinced. I was already convinced with the Ouija board. I was more convinced now. Okay. So then I will go on to say that this fascinated me. So as I got into my early teens, I got more and more fascinated with the occult. I believed all that stuff, and I liked to read about it and learn more about it, witchcraft and all of that kind of thing. And when I was probably a senior in high school, I went to the library and I got this great big fat like this book out of the library, very old book, and it was a book about witchcraft, and it had spells. The whole book was full of spells, and I was just like, wow, I want to do this. So I told I read a little bit of it, and then I told my one girlfriend about it. Okay, and I'm gonna call her Debbie. Okay. So I told Debbie, and she was interested because there was this one spell I wanted to try, and I asked her to try it with me, and she said, yeah, she was up for it. So you had to do it when there was a full moon, and you had to have a mirror. And we went out in my backyard when it was dark out, full moon, and you had to stand with your back to the moon, with the mirror in front of you, and looking in the mirror, you had to get the reflection of the moon into the mirror. And if you stared at it, and I think there was some magic words you had to say, and you're supposed to be thinking about, who am I going to marry? You imagine your wedding day, you imagine yourself as a bride. Who am I going to marry? Who is my groom? Who am I standing with at the altar? So this is what's in our minds. We said the magic words, we read them. With the mirror, I did it first by myself, and I got that mirror up with the moon, and I was just staring at it like I said the magic words, just thinking about myself in a bridal gown, and who's my groom? Who's my groom? Well, I am not kidding. The craters in the moon, that make the face, the man in the moon face, they started moving. They started moving and they created a silhouette of a man the perfect silhouette of a man, looked like he was wearing a black suit, like it was the back of him, not his face. I saw the figure of a man with a black suit on. Well, I screamed through the mirror on the grass, and I just screamed. It worked, and it scared the shit out of me, and I was shaking. So my friend Barbara, I don't know, she might have thought I was faking, of course. So then she said that she would try, and she did, and the same thing happened to her. We both were shaking, almost in tears. I mean, totally freaked out, and it was so scary. After that, I said, I am never, ever going to look at witchcraft again. It's real. It is very, very real. Don't mess with it. It's true. And I say don't mess with it because I don't see any good in it. Okay? That's why I'm saying don't mess with it. It's not a joke. It's not about having fun. It's a very serious thing, being in contact with spirits. Okay? Now I'm going to tell you what happened to me. I believe that when you open yourself up to these things, if you are a weak person, which I'm sure I was very much so when I was a teenager, it allows those spirits to take hold of you, and they can control you to some extent anyway, if if they know they've got you. You believe in them, they're stronger than you are. Okay? What happened to me was I started having panic attacks, and I started having just a lot of problems, emotional, um, social problems, and emotional problems. I started losing my self-confidence and self-esteem. I started to become miserable all through high school. Now, I was in junior high when all that happened, um, except, the thing about the last thing I told you, the spell, that was like my senior year in high school. But the Ouija board, the seance, that was before high school when I was like in eighth grade, seventh, eighth grade. So high school was a nightmare for me because I had the panic attacks and I had my self-esteem just tanked, and I was just miserable. I couldn't eat. I became like maybe somewhat anorexic. I was very, very thin, and everything went wrong. It seemed like things that I tried to do in high school, nothing worked out for me. I had a boyfriend who was very abusive toward me, and I was with him for 2 years, and um, it was not good. I had a very bad time in high school. I did not excel as I should have. I mean, I have a quite a bit of above average IQ, and I did bad in high school. I was told that I was not college material. Everything went bad those years. Okay. So, I think I don't want to make this too long. I have more. Okay. Um, should I stop now? Okay, I'm going to stop now, but please, please, you got to watch part 2 because I have more. Okay? So, that's it for the moment. I'll be right back with part 2. Thanks for watching.